is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guardians of the Future
Powered by
podcast. I'm your
Riverside.
host, Justin Latta. It's been a while since I've done this, so if you're a regular of the podcast, welcome back. If you're new here, time now. I've lost track of how many years. But I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. I'm currently the host of Lockdown Guardians every day. You can listen to that part of the Lockdown Podcast Network, your team every day. But here, we are talking specifically about the Cleveland Guardians minor league system on this podcast. If you like more prospect content from the Guardians system, you can read the daily newsletter I produce. That is nextyearincleveland.substack.com, giving you daily prospect updates on the Guardians minor league system. All the stuff from the game schedule, prospect scouting reports, game reports, interviews with players, front office members, draft content. We have all that stuff over at the newsletter. That is nextyearincleveland.substack.com. But this is our podcast. This is Guardians of the Future. We talk all things Cleveland Guardians minor league system. So we haven't done this in a while. We haven't had one in the 2025 season, I don't think. So we want to get the ball rolling on this season talking Guardians prospect content. And where do we start? We'll start with the spring breakout game just a week ago. We'll talk about who the Guardians prospects were that stood out at spring training. We'll talk about, and at spring breakout, we'll talk about who the Guardians prospects are performing well in camp, who guys are not performing well in camps. We'll talk about those guys. And then let's start off with a little bit of preview for Columbus this week. We got Akron, Lake County, and Lynchburg to follow, but let's talk about Columbus this week and who might be in the Columbus Clippers roster to start the year, what we're excited about there. But let's start with the spring breakout game. Obviously, that was the big game this spring for prospects. Love the spring breakout game. This is one of the best ideas Major League Baseball has had in some time. I really wish they could find a way to use this creativity and energy to do other things in baseball, because there's a lot of things. I'm not saying everything needs fixed in baseball, but I think there are things that need to be fixed. And I'd love them to channel the spirit of this into more of the decision making. But of course, I love the prospect game. Number one, I think the easy thing to talk about from the spring breakout game, obviously, is going to be our guy. That would be Parker Messick, who by far had the best spring breakout game of any Guardians prospect there. And he got the start for the Guardians in that game. 3 innings, 5 strikeouts. You see him if you're watching on YouTube. Blow a fastball by Colt Emerson, a Guardians target in that draft that year, just got snaked. But what did Parker Messick show in that game? Well, we saw some great fastball velocity from him. Parker Messick's fastball velocity is taking a step forward. It's been really good. He has typically in the past been about 89, 90, 92. This year at spring breakout, he was about 92, 93, hitting 94. That's a big development for Parker Messick, and we're excited to see that. We saw some of the elements of that velocity get better a year ago in Lake County. But now I think we're at a point where he is going to be sustaining that a little bit more. And if that is the case, if he is going to be throwing 92, 93, consistently hitting 94, that's going to take his game to a completely new level, because this is already a guy who I think has an above average to plus changeup. The slider's come along. It's getting better. The curveball, I know, is something he's working on a little bit too. But if we go with the deception that he has in his delivery, because it's a very low release point that really throws hitters off, that's what really makes his arsenal and his fastball stand out, and the changeup to go with it. The slider's improving and already has really good control, doesn't walk a lot of guys. Those are all really good elements. So the more his fastball plays like that, the better it's going to be for him. So obviously Parker Messick was the standout. That's why he made first team all prospect spring breakout on that list. Obviously number 2 on that list was Jason Churio, who also made the list in that game. Made the overall second team MLB spring breakout. Great day for Jason Churio, who went 3 for 4 with 3 singles. And not just the hits he had, but the significance of those hits is the exit velocities. We're talking a guy who had a 103 exit velocity and a single, 96.7. Why does that matter? Well, Jason Churio is a guy who we're not really sure how much power he's going to have, how much he's going to impact the ball. When we talk about hit tool for the Guardians and we think Jason Churio has a great hit tool, why do we think he has a great hit tool? Because A, he makes a lot of contact, but making a lot of contact doesn't mean you're a great hitter. It just means you make a lot of contact. Jason Churio, we believe, also has really good plate discipline and pitch recognition, zone awareness, all those things. So it's not just hitting the ball in his swing, but it's also what pitches are you swinging at. So he makes good swing decisions. He recognizes pitches. He doesn't chase out of the zone. He can pick up spin and breaking balls. All that goes into hit tool for me personally, and I think it should for others. I think it does for others. So he already had those as his baseline skill set, and that's what made him an exciting prospect offensively, was high contact rate, pitch recognition, plate discipline, all that stuff. When we see a guy like this grow into exit velocities that are 96, 97, 100, we're not talking about a guy who's going to have great power. We're not talking about 20 home run power. That's Jackson Churio, who is his brother, who has a lot more power, might be a 25 home run hitter. I don't expect Jason Churio to be a guy who's got 25 home run power, but I do think this is a guy who we could be seeing 10 to 15 home runs. Maybe there's like a Steven Kwan type bat in there. I'm not saying he's going to walk and make contact at the same rates, but those are the kind of power numbers we've seen from Kwan, who's not really a power hitter, but we think he can get to 10 to 15 home runs. Churio might be in that range. Churio might be a guy who can hit 10 to 15 home runs, can be a high on base guy, can be a high average guy, and he's a good defender in center field. So we like to see the growing power from Jason Churio in that game. Obviously, that's why he made second team all spring breakout team. He had a great spring breakout. Really good to see. I think the next guy on the list that deserves a mention in this game is my favorite prospect in the system, and that's including Travis Bazzana. I got to be honest. I love Travis Bazzana. Number one overall pick for a reason, right? He's a great player. But I think my number one prospect in the system in terms of who I'm really excited about, that is Angel Henao. This is a guy who hits the ball hard. He doesn't look like your typical star prospect. He does look more like a Guardians shortstop prospect, and that's okay. He does look like, I agree, the Brian Rocchios. There's a little bit of Francisco Lindor build to this guy as well. And I know some people, and myself included, have kind of soured on some of their middle infield prospects because we've seen other guys not named Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez not exactly reach the heights that we expect them to. They're just guys who make good contact, but it's not quality contact. What to me sets Angel Henao apart from all this is the contact quality. This is a guy who hits the ball hard. We're talking 107, 104 mile an hour singles in this game, exit velocity. Those are numbers I've never seen Brian Rocchio reach. I don't know if I've ever seen Francisco Lindor reach those numbers. I'm sure he has. But I think Angel Henao, as a hitting prospect, as a shortstop prospect in the system, might be to me the most exciting prospect not named Travis Bazzana. And I know some people also think he might be more exciting than Travis Bazzana. Because he does have a nice high upside offensive tool. I think we could see 20 home run raw power from Angel Henao. The question is whether he gets to it, because this is a guy who hits a lot of ground balls. Both of his singles in this game were ground balls. So that's something he's got to improve. He's got to get the ball in the air. He is now 6'1", listed a little bit heavier than when he signed at 16. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, I showed the clip of him throwing the ball from shortstop, throwing a runner out, plus arm, easily a 60 grade arm. I've got Henao with a above average hit tool, fringe average power. I think he's going to grow into above average defense. He's got a plus arm. He's a plus runner. Very easy, free, and smooth runner. Angel Henao checks all the boxes for exciting tools. This is one of the most toolsy prospect in the system for the Guardians, I think, in quite some time. And a guy who has a chance to reach them all. Now, no, it's not great power. We're talking about 31 home run power. That's for other guys who we'll discuss. But when you combine a guy who makes contact, he is a bit of aggressive at the plate. I do worry about that. But has the ability to hit for some power as a shortstop, but also run well and play great defense. That's an exciting prospect. So I think Angel Henao had a really good spring breakout. I'm really excited for him. Easily the next one I think we can easily talk about, we've talked about before, is definitely Cooper Ingle, who had a great spring breakout game as well. And that really comes as no surprise, right? Cooper Ingle's stock has sort of been on the rise in the last couple of years. At least last year it sure was. Got a single. He was the first Guardians hitter to get them on the board in this game. I'm really excited about Cooper Ingle. Another 2 hits in this game, 95 mile an hour single. Again, not a guy with really great high exit velocities. He's just a little above average, high contact potential. I also thought Ingle did a great job in this game with his defense. He was blocking balls in the dirt, doing some back picks. He didn't throw a runner out in this game like I would have liked to have seen him throw a runner out, but he did have a really good release and a really good throw down the second that just was a little bit late. And I think a lot of that had to do with more it wasn't a clean pitch. And that'll be something he has to work on. He has to work on handling pitches that aren't clean and still throwing down to second. So Cooper Engel, great game there. Engel, Hanau, Churio, and obviously Parker Messick, all-stars. I thought Alfonso Rosario's 106-mile-an-hour double off the bat was exciting. Rosario is a guy in this system who has skills that nobody else in the system does. This is a guy who might have above-average raw power and above-average speed and a great throwing arm in right field. That's a little bit like George Valera from the right side, actually, if you want to think about it that way. I think he does have those tools and that skill set where this is a guy who could hit 25 home runs. This is a guy who could steal 20 bases. This is a guy who could play good defense in right field with a huge arm. That is kind of what George Valera has done, at least what he thought was at his ceiling. Now, Valera's ceiling's come down a little bit. I don't have as high hopes for Rosario because of the swing and miss in the zone, a little bit of chase. He knows he needs to work on that. So there is that. Ralphie Velasquez, to me, also was a guy who had a great spring breakout for the Guardians in a lot of ways. He took a walk. He didn't have a really hard single in this game, but it was a good approach. He was mic'd up during the game. He was a lot of fun to talk to for the broadcast, so that was cool. Love that. So great game from everybody there. Austin Peterson was a guy I was higher on coming in and struggled a little bit. I'm kind of reshuffling my thoughts on Austin Peterson. Still high there, but I'm kind of wondering if the floor or the ceiling's a little bit limited there. Alex Mooney had a triple and a stolen base. That was fun to watch. Overall, just a great experience. I know Tugboat got in the game. Everybody does love them, some Tugboat. I'm not surprised. He had a great game. He pitched a great game. He did show some hitability in that game. I think this is a guy who
all of a sudden that 90
really
looks like 95.
Is kind of command over stuff at this point in his career. The stuff is good. Don't get me wrong on Tugboat. Like, the deception on the fastball is what plays for him. It's what makes everything work because he has a really unique arm slot and a low arm angle on his release. He's got a good changeup. He's got a good slider as well. It's just, to me, it's going to be fastball velocity is going to be the big deal for Tugboat, I think, going forward. But he had a decent game. Definitely, showed a couple things to work on there. So spring breakout overall was a fantastic experience, I would say, for the Guardians. They won that game. Good game overall to showcase some of their players, but I would say Parker Messick definitely has elevated his profile. People already know about Jason Churio. Angel Hanau is starting to rise a little bit. Cooper Engel's already got his stock up a little bit. So a lot of really nice performances from the Guardians at the spring breakout game. Let's next talk about who is performing well in Guardians camp right now among prospects. Well, one of those guys is not Juan Brito, although he's been better in recent days. I guess the question really is, how much do you want to put stock into different periods of time in spring training and spring training performance? You want to be careful about spring training because the ball flies in Arizona, guys are working on things, and overall, things are just not consistent in spring training, right? They're not real numbers. The ball flies out there, and you have no idea who you're facing, right? Like Juan Brito. Let me just tell you about Juan Brito real quick in spring training. So according to Baseball Reference's opponent quality score, Juan Brito has faced an average of a AAA pitcher, 7.8. So actually, it's just below a AAA pitcher. On Baseball Reference's opponent quality scale, it goes 10 Major Leaguer, 8 AAA, 7 AA, and so on and so forth. So Juan Brito's at 7.8. So it's just below a AAA situation for him facing the guys he's facing. He has hit more home runs in recent days. You might be surprised to know that he is the spring training home run leader for the Guardians. So there is that. So he has been a little bit better as of late, I would say, but I don't know if it's been enough for him to win the job. I think Cleveland was more likely to send him to Columbus to start the year to get his feet underneath him to start the year, give one more last look to Gabriel Arias, and overall, I think just let Brito build his confidence heading into the season. I think Brito probably has put a lot of pressure on himself in camp, a lot of expectations. Can totally relate to that. The defense isn't the greatest there. I mean, again, for Juan Brito, the bat is going to have to drive the profile. We absolutely know this. And the reason I like the bat is because he can hit the ball to his pull side, he can get it in the air, and those things he's going to be able to do maximize his power, makes enough contact, he draws walks. I think this is a relatively solid floor offensive second baseman who is going to have to work very hard to improve his defense no matter where he goes. So I do like Brito. I think he's put a little pressure on himself in camp. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to AAA. Other prospects, though, that have really shined in camp so far, if we're just looking at not really numbers, but guys that I've seen a lot get into games at this point in spring training. Cleo Watson has had some time in spring training. It hasn't been against the best quality of guy. 6 strikeouts, no walks. The quality hasn't been there, but I thought he swung the bat pretty well this spring overall. Other guys, I know Will Wilson's had a big camp. I know a lot of people have asked about Will Wilson. I really have my doubts about Will Wilson, but we'll see about him. I know Travis Bazzana has not had a great camp. Angel Henao has been good in his short time. Obviously, we talked about him for spring breakout, but he's been really good in his short time there. CJ Kafis has had limited exposure, but I've seen him hit the ball well to the pull side, which is something he does well, and he controls the strike zone very well, I think. So Kafis, to me, has impressed in spring training quite a bit. Pitchers, I think, have been the bigger deal. I think Bradley Hanner has gotten some chances out there that have been really good. Unfortunately, Franco Aleman's been hurt. He hasn't been able to get out there all that often. We've seen a lot of pitchers have to come in and clean up some innings in these games. Zane Morehouse has gotten a lot of chances out there. He's got a couple of strikeouts. Things could be a little better for him control-wise, but he's gotten some opportunities to get in games, and I think he's held his own out there in some of these games. In terms of left-handed relievers, obviously Doug Nikhazy's back in AAA. He kind of struggled. I think Andrew Misiazek has acclimated himself well this spring. This is a guy who is coming off of Tommy John 2 years ago. Last year was his first full year back, or partial year. Misiazek was a legitimate bullpen prospect for the Guardians at one point until Tommy John wrecked his 2023. He came back in 2024, was not quite the same. But if he gets back to what he was in 2022, when he was so close to being on the verge of a 40-man roster ad, I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Misiazek gets a look at the bullpen in 2025 in Cleveland, because Eric Sabrowski is a guy who's dealing with an injury right now as well. So they're going to need a second lefty out of the bullpen. I don't know who it's going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if Misiazek finds his way to Cleveland at some point this season. It's another deceptive profile. This is not a guy who's got big velocity. We're talking 90-92 for the most part. But it's another weird arm angle, low release point that really aids deception on the fastball and everything that works. He does have a very high spin slider, so kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Kyle Nelson, Kyle Crockett, guy's named Kyle, relief kit. So I think there's an effective left-handed reliever in there for him. There hasn't been a lot of guys in camp who I've really been all that impressed by. I mean, it's been limited action, obviously. Jorge Burgos has hit a couple home runs in camp. He had 18 home runs a year ago. I'm not that high on Burgos, but, you never know with some of these guys. I'm not saying spring training performance, but he did have some legitimate pop last year between Lake County and Akron. I thought Cody Huff has handled himself pretty well in camp in terms of defense and knowledge of the strike zone. I think he's really done a good job of controlling the strike zone as a hitter. And again, I think also defensively, obviously, there's a big upside there. Cooper Engel's gotten some at-bats. I think he's held his own, too. So there's been a number of hitting prospects that have been okay, but I think for overall, it's been kind of the pitching side of things that has seen more. And that's really all the guys that have gotten in at this point. They really have limited some of their prospects in spring training. Let's have some fun, and let's talk about who is going to Columbus. So the minor league season starts staggered. So AAA starts at the same time the major leagues do, because they need depth guys to be able to call up and play right away. And then we have about a week delay before the rest of the minor leagues kind of follow. So I think we can safely project Columbus for the most part here. I think there's a pretty good chance we can say who is and who is not going to be on this roster in Columbus. So if you're looking on YouTube right now, I've got the depth charts pulled up over at nextyearincleveland.substack.com, where you can look. The catching rotation, I expect Cody Huff to be the full-time catcher in Columbus for the most part, and you'll see Jake Ganchia, who is a minor league signing. I think that's a guy who will start with him a little bit. Dom Nunez is there. I'll be curious to see what his situation looks like. At first base, it looks like it's going to be Mike Capriz. He's hit the ball a little bit well in spring training. He's actually had some really good exit velocity, so take that for what it's worth. You never know with Mike Capriz. Again, he continues to be a late bloomer, but I've kind of fallen out of that profile a little bit just because he's aged a little bit. I do expect Juan Brito to go to AAA, so we'll see him go to Columbus and try to get his feet under him to start the season and maybe come up later. Yordis Valdez looks like he should be the shortstop in Columbus. He has actually had a great camp defensively. I know he's had some hits in camp a little bit. I've seen Yordis Valdez have these flashes of offense, and it got me excited before, and I thought, okay, maybe this offense is finally turning into something. And every time I buy into it, it doesn't happen. So I'm not buying into it right now with him offensively, but a great defensive prospect. Third base looks like Will Wilson. The outfield's going to come down to who makes the Major League Club. Is Tyler Freeman going to be on the opening day roster? I think so. I think they'll keep him on the Major League roster to start the season. So the outfield, I think, in AAA is going to be something like Khalil Watson, Petey Halpin, Jonathan Rodriguez. Obviously, Chase DeLauder is hurt right now. So I could see all those guys having outfield time in AAA. It's going to be interesting to see how they balance that. Maybe Tyler Freeman does go down. I'm sorry, no, it's Angel Martinez, not Tyler Freeman. Angel Martinez will be in an outfield spot in Columbus. So it'll be Halpin, Martinez, Rodriguez, and Watson will be your four-man outfield group. And then they'll hopefully have to work Chase DeLauder back in the mix because, he's hurt once again with the oblique injury. So Columbus, to be honest with you, not the most exciting offensive roster of prospects to start the season. This is a lot of depth guys, right? Juan Brito, we want to watch him to see what he's doing in terms of getting his feet settled this season offensively, trying to improve defensively, trying to force the Guardians to call him up. Juan Brito really needs this season to go well for him, I think, for his future, because we don't really know if he's going to be a second baseman full-time. I don't think he is. I don't really have a home for him defensively in my mind in terms of defense and what his skill set is. But Juan Brito needs a good season in 2025 because Travis Bazan is right behind him. And if he's going to find his way in Cleveland as a regular, I think he wants to do it this year because Bazana won't be far behind. Petey Halpin is a good defender. I know Cleveland feels like they pushed him a little bit too hard maybe the 2 years ago in his debut in Akron, which is how he repeated it in 2024. He got a little bit better. He's getting a little bit stronger. I still see the fourth, fifth outfield type in Petey Halpin for defense and pinch running. The offense, I don't, as the bat, there's some power in there, but I really don't see the career path here. Jonathan Rodriguez at this point has nothing left to prove in AAA. That's just a fact. He has been a fantastic hitter at AAA. I don't know if I believe it translates to the Major League level. You can go back through Guardians history, right? And you can talk about the Jordan Browns of the world and the I'm trying to think of the other guys that have been in the outfield. Richie Schaefer's of the world. There's been even Jesus Aguilar comes to mind. He's not an outfield, but he comes to mind. They've had these guys in the outfield in the minors who have these great AAA numbers, and they go on to the majors. Jared Head comes to mind as well. And they don't do anything. And I don't know if Rodriguez's profile necessarily translates to the majors because he's passive, not patient. And I think he struggles to hit good breaking stuff. And he hits a lot of ground balls. For a guy who's got great raw exit velocities, great raw power, hits the ball on the ground a ton. So I don't know if that's going to play at the Major League level. I do think he deserves a shot. Someone needs to use him and see if he can do it. And look, if John Kenzie-Noel and Will Brennan do not claim right field for their own this year, and Chase DeLauder is still on the shelf, and George Valera is still on the shelf, and Rodriguez is hitting, I don't see a problem with calling him up to the majors. I don't. I think you have to try that out if he's hitting again, and the guys you have aren't. I think you just got to cycle through that. Pitching's going to be interesting in AAA. So Slade Ciccone starting the year on the injured list, but I expect he'll go to Columbus when he comes back. Eric Sabrowski's starting on the injured list, so that makes things interesting in the bullpen. AAA probably is going to look something like Zach Kent. We're going to see, it depends on if Logan Allen is starting the year in the majors. If he starts the year in the majors, then that takes away from Columbus, but you have Ryan Webb, you have Doug Nikhazy, who are all going to AAA. So you might have 3 guys there that are immediate options for them in the majors, which is good. It's better than it was a year ago. I think Joey Cantillo probably goes to AAA, but we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, he should be the first guy recalled if there's an injury or a doubleheader rainout you got to make up for. He should be the first guy recalled. I want to see what year 2 for Doug Nikhazy looks like in terms of these new mechanics. Remember, for the last several years, he's been a guy who has this high over-the-top arm slot. Now it's more wide in 3/4. This is year 2 for Doug Nikhazy of these new mechanics. Muscle memory is hard to break sometimes, so I want to see how his mechanics look in year 2 and if that leads to better control. Because Doug Nikhazy to me still needs better control to be a viable major league starter. Going down to the bullpen, Franco Aleman starting the year on the injured list because of a hip injury. He's got a hernia that he's recovering from. There's a bunch of other guys, though, that are down there. I think Parker Mashinsky will provide them depth. Bradley Hanner's interesting, 92-94 with a big slider. Closed games in Akron last year. He got to AAA for a little bit. He's an interesting guy. Nick Enright starting the year on the injured list. He's got a lat strain, but he should be back shortly into the first month of the season, I think, so that's good. Nick Enright will also be one of the first guys on call for bullpen help. We talked about Missy Ozek, Luis Frias. I don't know if he has an opt-out or not. Nick Mikolajczyk, he's had some interesting velocity in spring. He's been 92-95 at times. He's a guy who had a better fastball in the past, had a great big slider. Just like Missy Ozek, Mikolajczyk was going to be one of the next big relief prospects. Then you had Tommy John. The stuff hasn't recovered. The control hasn't come back yet. So this will be a big year for him as well. And then a guy we haven't seen a lot of this spring is Riley Pint. I don't know where he is. I think he's just a depth guy. But he might see him go to Columbus if he is not staying in Arizona to work on things. He might. We don't know. And then Tanner Burns probably fills out the bullpen in Columbus a little bit. The Guardians did get Christian Cairo back from the Braves, from a Rule 5 pick. I got to be honest, Cairo can play a good second. He can play a good third. I think he can handle short in the short term, not a long-term guy. There's not a lot in the bat there. I was really surprised the Braves took a chance on him anyway. Not because I don't think he can be a major league utility player, because I think he can be, but I didn't think selecting him and forcing him into a situation where he had it in the big league roster was beneficial to him or anybody. So he's back in Cleveland. We'll see what happens with him. So to me, I think the most exciting prospects that are going to AAA are probably Cody Huff and then Juan Brito. I think you'd like to hope at some point this year that Cooper Ingle forces his way to AAA. Obviously, you want to hope that Travis Bazan and Angel now force their way to AAA. They both could. Look, I don't know what the situation is going to be with Juan Brito, but if Travis Bazana is just lighting all of Akron on fire, if he is just doing so well that he's the best thing since Diamond Deli in Akron, I could see him pushing his way to Akron or Columbus this year because Juan Brito should not get in the way of Travis Bazana. So I think if Bazana really goes down there and is Akron's greatest sensation besides the cheese salads or Swenson's, he should go to Columbus and go with Frank's Dirty Dogs or something down there. Angel Henao, Yordi's Valdez should not get in his way either. If Angel Henao has a fantastic first half in Akron, he should be the AAA starting shortstop very in short order. Same with Cooper Ingle. A little bit different with Cooper Ingle because I do think Cody Huff is a legitimate backup catching prospect for the Guardians. I don't think he's a starting catching prospect, although he did have good exit velocities in the Arizona Fall League over the fall. And I think he makes contact, and I think he's a good defender. So I find him to be a good backup catcher candidate. So Jake Anchia and Dom Nunez shouldn't stand in his way. I think if Cooper Ingle, who was already in Akron a year ago, if he goes to Akron this year and continues his success from 2024, I think he should go to Columbus too and be a rotational catcher with Cody Huff or DH one of them. Get them time. So the exciting prospects to me are not really at AAA besides like Cody Huff, Brito, Nikhazy. It's more major league depth right now. The exciting guys are going to go to AA, and they have a chance to push their way to AAA at some point this year. And that also includes our guy from the top of the show, Parker Messick. I think he's a guy who will get to AAA this year. They're using AAA as a holding pen for pitching depth this year. So I think innings will be limited at first, but I think later in the year, Parker Messick, there's no reason Parker Messick should not be in Columbus by midsummer. I think Austin Peterson, too. I think he deserves it. I know I said I'm a little bit lower on Peterson than where I have been, but I think he deserves to go to AAA at some point this year too. Zane, Morehouse, and Magnus Ellert's relief prospects. Those are the guys, to me, on the horizon for AAA relief help this year. Both guys made it to Akron a little bit last year. Both had varying levels of success. Both have big fastballs. Both have extension. Both are big, lanky guys. I see a little Cade Smith in both of them, or what the Guardians like about Cade Smith. They do some of those things well, which is extension and a good fastball. So those are your guys who I think could push the envelope to AAA. Although the Guardians shouldn't need a lot of relief help to move up this year because they should have a good bullpen. There's still going to be Ciccone, all those things. So AAA, not the most exciting roster to start the year. It'll hold us some depth early on, and then the exciting prospects in the second half. So if you're looking to attend a Clippers game, I would say if you're looking for the best exciting prospect roster, you're going to want to do that the second half of the year, maybe more like June or July. But if you're in Akron, if you're in the Northeast Ohio part, Akron's a great team to go see. You want to go see Akron early in the year. Like, again, I think it'll be Bazana, Kafis, Engel, and Hanau out there, plus Messick, plus Peterson. Akron's going to be really strong to start the year. And in the second half, they'll go to Columbus. All right, that's all we're going to do for this week on this episode of Guardians of the Future. I do hope to be back more in the future to do this. I can't commit to once a week at this point. I think it's going to be every other week. We'll see how the minor league season unfolds, but I'm hoping to get back to doing every week. Here are some things you can look forward to for Guardians of the Future and prospect content. When the Guardians minor league season starts, I'm going to be giving you daily updates in video form, and that's going to be the Guardians minor league morning minute. And that's going to be me taking you through the last night highlights, just talking through who had a great game, who did something important, who didn't have a great game, what am I watching, any interesting observations, and I'll try to keep that under 2 minutes. We're calling it the Guardians Morning Minor League Minute, and we're going to try to keep it under 2 minutes, so it's still technically a minute something. We'll see how that evolves throughout the year, but I plan on that being a daily video piece for everybody to follow along, and you can check that out on all my social media handles, at JL_baseball on Twitter, at JL.baseball on, or JL Baseball on Blue Sky, over at the Locked On Guardians YouTube account, at this YouTube account. I've got a TikTok now. I'm doing stuff on TikTok. What do I call myself on TikTok? I have to look it up right now. Over on TikTok, I am at JLCLE. You can find me on Instagram too, posting some of the same content. That is over at Baseball Justin. Check me out there. And the big thing you can do right now, if you're listening to this podcast right now, is go over to Next Year in Cleveland.substack.com. The link is in the show description. Go over there. Sign up to be a subscriber. It is free to be a subscriber to get daily prospect content. And again, that includes the daily prospect report from all around the minors. It's going to include some scouting reports. It might include game reports this year when I'm at games. It'll include some draft content. It'll include interviews I do. The one thing right now that is paid, if you become a paid subscriber to Next Year in Cleveland, the newsletter, you're going to get my full 90-page, I know it's a beast, ebook. It is all of my Cleveland Guardians scouting reports from the 2025 seasons coming into the season. My rankings, my scouting reports, they're all there right now. I'm still posting those on the newsletter daily, but if you want them all ahead of time, that's where you got to do it. You got to sign up to be a paid subscriber at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. You'll get the full ebook. Again, that's 50 scouting reports. It's 43 full scouting reports. It's 7 guys who just missed who have smaller scouting reports. And then I also have 2025 prospect predictions in there. I also have 2024 graduated prospect profiles, guys I went back and reviewed how I did last year versus what they turned out to be at the major league level. All that is available in the ebook. It is 90 pages. It is a beast, but it's got all the information you need for the Guardians minor league season. So if you're into that, you can sign up to be a subscriber at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. Take a paid membership to get that, or you can PayPal me $10. If you PayPal me $10 at Justin Latta, I will give me your email. I will email you a copy of the ebook for $10 if you do not want to subscribe to Next Year in Cleveland for the full season. But I recommend you do, because we're going to have daily prospect content there, and we're going to have all kinds of other prospect content this year. I'm hoping to, again, add some guests this year. I'll play any video interviews I get from games this season. We'll try to get some other guests on as well. We'll talk to some broadcasters. maybe some players, all that kind of stuff. In the meantime, again, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube. And make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. Sign up for the paid version to get the ebook if you want it, or PayPal me $10. And please, please, please go over and download and subscribe to Locked On Guardians every day. I'm doing podcasts over there every day. This is just a bonus for anybody else who loves Guardians prospect content, and I love doing it too. I just need more time to do it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me, and thank you for your interest in the Cleveland Guardians farm system. Love covering them, love talking to the fans, love covering games. You know where to find me on social media. You know where to find me everywhere else. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back again soon with more Guardians prospect content on Guardians of the Future.